Hi again, Gregg Bell, Dave Boling. Merry Christmas Eve to you here in Seattle, where it just started raining fittingly on what has been a pretty rainy, dreary day for Seahawks football. They lost 34-31 to the Arizona Cardinals, who had been 5-8-1 coming in and were eliminated without anything to play for. The Seahawks had a second seed in the NFC to play for, which they squandered. They squandered a 13-point comeback in the final 3 minutes of regulation to tie the game. Stephen Hauska missed the extra point that would have possibly won it with a minute left. That's if the defense had held up its end of the bargain, which it did not. I asked Hauska about the kick and the fact that Nolan Freese's snap was high. He said no excuse. He didn't say no excuse, he just offered no excuse. He said, I have to be better. He said that 3 different times. The 3 questions I asked Hauska. Hauska, of course, had missed the kick in overtime that would have beaten the Cardinals in Arizona in October. Dave, Boling, and I witnessed what might have been the worst half of football we've seen from a Seahawks team, from any Seattle team, since maybe the 0-12 Washington Huskies a few years back.
Just awful. The second half, guys like Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, some guys on the defense said, wait a second, we're better than this. And they kind of remembered who they were. Russell Wilson scored threw 4 touchdown passes in the second half. And I mean, he was spectacular. Jimmy Graham had a great catch. Doug Baldwin had a great catch. And so at times they remember where the magic lies. And so inexplicably they forget so often. They had, this is so characteristic of what they've done this season. They've had 6 losses or ties against teams that didn't have winning records. And that's not taking care of business. Championship teams take care of business. And this team has not. And it's a matter of details, like a high snap. Okay, it seems like a small thing. It's like for the one of the nail for the horseshoe, the war was lost. And that's kind of what these guys are dealing with. They just don't play complete games anymore. And it was brilliant in the second half, and it was very exciting, and you end up losing. And now what's going to happen with the seeding is out of their hands.
It is, because now the Seahawks, to get a first-round bye, need Atlanta to lose to a 6-8 Saints team next week that doesn't have anything to play for, and they need Detroit to lose either Monday night at Dallas or against Green Bay in the NFC North title game that'll be next Sunday at Detroit. If neither of those 2 things happen, and if the Seahawks can't beat a 49er team that beat the Rams today to go to 2-13, all 3 of those things don't happen. The Seahawks are going to be playing on the first weekend of full weekend of January, 7 or 8, here in CenturyLink Field against a wild card team, which means the second round
could be pretty
game,
good.
Or it could be Green Bay, it could be the New York Giants, and we saw what Green Bay did to Seattle 2 weeks ago.
But it's so screwy. I don't know about you, for all the troubles I see with the blocking being an issue and the inconsistencies, you just wonder if this team has enough talent to flip the toggle.
And that's the issue, I think. I don't think this team is as good as it thinks it is. I think they've been getting by in months believing it was good, and they're not as good as they think they are. They keep saying, well, Doug Baldwin said after the game, let's look in the mirror. Well, if you look in the mirror, you might not like what you see. This team is not deep on the offensive and defensive lines. It's not consistently getting stops with defense. Steven Terrell, for the first time, was exposed as Earl Thomas's replacement with an 80-yard post route that he should have covered. Carson Palmer looked him off pretty deftly for a veteran quarterback, but that's something that Earl Thomas wouldn't have been fooled by a quarterback's eyes. That would have made it 14-0.
And then you hear Michael Bennett say, it counts. It counts when the playoffs are here. And I just don't know. I've heard teams say that before, and they end up sorry about it. And they just can't crank it up. This is a team loaded with talent, and they've been there before, but they're really making their road tougher. They're not helping themselves.
Their offensive line issues could be deadly in the postseason, no matter first round, second round. But for sure, if the Seahawks are going to get back to the Super Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years, 2 playoff games will have to be on the road, most likely, including potentially at Dallas in the NFC Championship game. The injury front, Tyler Lockett's injury, we don't have to go on and on about how gruesome that was. You saw the replays. That leg snapped. Russell Wilson was pretty graphic describing the bloody scene around that ankle when he ran up to Lockett. Doug Baldwin, the bloody scene, by the way, suggests a compound fracture breaking the skin. And then Doug Baldwin was praying in the end zone with Lockett, a very devout player himself. It was a very ugly scene. Needless to say, Lockett's injury is costing him the rest of this season. He was just about to emerge as a weapon the Seahawks haven't had all season.
And he's just one of the great guys. He
Yeah.
has electric talent, and he is so beloved on this team. And just down at this end, to see that happen after the Earl Thomas injury that we've seen earlier in the year, it's just really, really a tough thing. And it's hard to watch at times when you know how much these guys put into the game, how much it means to them, particularly a guy like Earl and Tyler Lockett. It's a tough one to stomach.
Yeah, they're paid well, but boy, they pay a price physically, these NFL football players, no doubt about that. Thomas Rawls may be more injured than Pete Carroll let on after the game. Carroll said bruised shoulder that kept Rawls out the entire second half. There's some whispers around the locker room it might be more than that. More to come on that. Right now, the lead runner for the Seahawks is rookie Alex Collins.
It's Russell Wilson.
Well, it's Russell Wilson who was
Tonight.
sliding down like a baseball player for most of his scrambles and runs today, and the Cardinals were ready for a lot of his keepers. Well, the Seahawks have made their bed now, and if they have to play in the first round of the playoffs and then go on the road for the next two, it's because of losses like today in Arizona, at Tampa Bay, and as Dave mentioned, a host of other sub-500 teams. Merry Christmas, heartfelt Merry Christmas to all of you. Dave's already starting his holiday. Thanks for joining us.